Quiboloy has reservations about coming forward, saying that he fears for his life.
The Philippine Coast Guard is now coordinating with the United States to determine the person behind the hacking of its Facebook page. While no information has been compromised, the PCG said it is worried that the page may be used to spread disinformation. The page was hacked on Monday and is yet to be recovered.
And the National Police is looking into road accidents involving participants of the Boss Ironman Motorcycle Challenge. In La Union and Isabela, one rider died while another sustained injuries after colliding with Ironman participants. The Motorcycle Endurance Challenge requires participants to complete a 1,200-kilometer route within 24 hours. Well, wala sa headlines natin, but I think we'll also be discussing it today, yung desisyon ng Navotas RTC on the Jamboy Baltasar case.
And that decision is, instead of murder, it's homicide.
Yeah, the prosecutors had filed charges of murder against 6 policemen of Navotas for the killing of Jamboy Baltasar on August 2, 2023. Pero in the end, yesterday, the Navotas RTC decided that only one policeman was guilty of the lesser charge of homicide.
Okay, backtrack a bit, Bok. Who is Jamboy? Who is Jamboy, and what was the
I
case
think
about?
he's only 17 years old. I think he was only fishing or he was on a boat doon sa banks ng Pasig River. At napagkamalan daw siya ng mga police na suspect, I think sa murder case. So, binaril sa ulo.
So Jamboy at 17 is a student.
Yeah.
Or
well, I'm not sure if he
teenager.
still was, but he's a teenager. And then, so one policeman was convicted of homicide instead of murder. So may mga umaalma doon, including the family, of course. And then 4 policemen were convicted of the much lesser charge of illegal discharge of firearms.
On a person.
Well, hindi clear kung pinaputukan sa diretso, pero
Okay.
isa lang yung tama.
Okay. So the presumption is the
conviction.
other policemen who were charged for illegal disposition,
Discharge of weapon.
Discharge of weapon.
Either they deliberately
Shot in the air?
Not clear. I don't know. I don't know dun sa promulgation. Pero either they purposely did not shoot him or they were bad shots.
They were bad shots. But there was only one bullet that killed Jamboy.
One bullet killed Jamboy. And it took them several hours to recover the body kasi supposedly, sabi ng mga police, huwag niyong, do not recover the body for several hours. So partly, I think, findings ni Raquel Fortuna, drowning was also part of the reason. That's why he died.
Okay.
So medyo masalimot ang kaso. And maraming umalma.
So
In fact,
this
DOJ
story is significant because of the nature of the decision of the court, or
in part the
case
decision
itself?
of the court, and in large part also because of the behavior of policemen. Kasi klaro sa
Okay.
sa POP. Can we go into this na?
It was initially big because of the behavior of the policeman, the conduct of the policeman.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's an even bigger story because of the
And the
decision, the nature.
Kasi yung police operational procedure ng PNP requires, or actually prohibits firing warning shots. For obvious reasons. You fire warning shots, somebody might get hit, especially with the
Even if you fire up, right?
That's
In the air.
worse.
That's worse.
That's
Because
worse. What goes up
comes
has
down.
come down.
And sometimes in a faster velocity.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
more deadly.
And
That's what we see every New Year.
In New Year.
Yes,
Kaya bawal lang ang
Discharge of weapons.
Bawal lang firing in the air, bawal lang warning shots because you might hit somebody, you might hit a bystander because it's not an aimed shot.
Isn't that part of the SOP of policemen now?
It's SOP. It's prohibited in the police operational procedure. Ito nga. Anyway, so that's one. The other one is you should only discharge your weapon as a policeman if your life is in danger or if the lives of other people is in
And obviously,
danger.
those were not the circumstances.
Well, that's not the case. Supposedly, nakita nilang tumalon sa tubig at lumungoy palayo. So, hinabol nila ng bala.
Baka hindi marunong lumangoy, Bok.
kahit na ba.
O nanghihinayin, baka mabasa ang uniforme.
Sa pelikula mo lang makikita na pwedeng mamaril ang police dahil tumatakbo yung suspect. Hindi pwede yun in real life. Not legally. But we'll have a legal expert later who can discuss this further. Pero hindi pwede yun kasi tumatakbo siya, hindi mo pwede habulin ng bala. Habulin mo.
Baka hindi marunong lumangoy. Baka nangihinahin, mabasa yung uniforme nila. Alam mo naman sa PNP, ewan ko kung hanggang ngayon, kanya-kanyang bili ng uniforme. At least
Hindi na.
May budget na.
Sobrang laki na improvement ng PNP. Wala na mga dati revolver. Ngayon, puro 9mm na sila. May mga Glock, may mga kung ano.
Siguro mas may maliliwanagan tayo na susunod nating bisita, ang ating suke from the Integrated Bar of the Philippines.
The former President, Domingo Egon Cayosa. Attorney Cayosa, magandang hapon and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon sa nakikinig sa inyong programa.
Yes, sir. Sir, let's see lang if the audio is clear, pero kasi medyo malabo eh. But anyway, of course, you saw and you heard the decision of the Navotas RTC dun sa case si Jamboy Baltasar. Several valid points doon. For example, I suppose, homicide instead of murder. But that's also a controversial decision for many Filipinos na parang, bakit homicide lang? Bakit hindi murder? Walang kasalanan yung bata. Sir, ano po yung what is the explanation for that? I understand there's a legal explanation for that.
Yeah, there is, no? At yung whether or not may kasalanan yung victim, it's that a qualifying circumstance to elevate simple killing, homicide, into murder.
Mm-hmm.
So, naintindihan natin, yung mga kababayan natin, akala siguro nila na ang inosente at napatay mo murder ka agad. Hindi ho kasi because innocent or guilt is not a qualifying circumstance for murder. So, kung wala namang premeditation, walang treachery, walang effective use of force, at itinatang specified sa revised penal code that will upgrade a killing to murder, the judge cannot do otherwise but to impose on the penalty for the lesser offense of homicide.
Of homicide. Yes, sir. Sir, ano po ang ibig sabihin in layman's terms ng premeditation? Kasi mukhang yun ang clincher dito sa kasong ito eh. Was it premeditated or not?
Ang premeditation ho, yung pinag-isipan nila within a considerable period of time na talagang papatayin ng tao at pinano at walang kalaban-laban yung tao.
With treachery.
Oo. Yung treachery sa bagay, yung pinagplanuhan mo at paplaidor ang pagpatay mo sa kanya para hindi siya matatakap o hindi siya mataganti o hindi siya ma-defend ang sarili niya. That's another qualifying circumstance.
Sir, in other words po, kailangan, when you say premeditated,
May plano
talaga.
May plano, oo.
Oo. Ito kasi parang hindi alam kung sino yung suspect at alam niya siya sa rin niya. So, homicide yun. Diba? Pero hindi naman siguro pinagdanuhan na kahit sino dyan at kabarilin na lang natin. Mukhang hindi naman na-improve na gano'n.
So, yun ang dahilan kung bakit homicide instead of murder.
So, Attorney Cayosa, so this is probably a case of a policeman not behaving less than professionally. Ganun po ba?
Correct. So,
Not following
criminal liability, he will be dismissed from the service. The maximum penalty for an administrative offense.
Attorney, tanong ko lang po kasi I was looking at yung maximum minimum. For example, for murder, I understand it's supposed to be reclusion perpetua. Pero for homicide, it was only, it's 12 to 20 years. Minimum 12, maximum 20 plus damages and all that. Pero ang binigay lang pong hatol ng judge dun kay Sargento was 4 years. I'm wondering po why is it a third of the minimum?
So, kailangan mo detalye ng desisyon din sa mga tinatawag na mitigating circumstances.
Mitigating.
Diba? So, depende kung ano ang na-improve at naipakita na kung din sa yung judge during the trial. So, that can be read in the totality of the decision.
Ang understanding ko po, at least from the news reports po from last night, I think yung rationale ng judge ng court was that number one, sumuko naman yung mga police voluntarily At number two, it was a normal or an official law enforcement operation. Kaya ay siguro kaya binaba dun sa 4 years lamang. Pero sir, attorney, sorry, tanong lang ng ordinaryong tao, hindi ho ba dapat mas malaki ang responsibilidad at ang burden ng isang opisyal pag may ginawa siyang mali, I mean, we're talking about somebody who was armed and trained to use lethal weapons by the state, by taxpayers. Tapos, sabit, ang laki ng sabit, may isang patay. Shouldn't that be a bigger burden than a lesser burden?
Unfortunately, being a public official or a policeman, not an aggravating circumstance kung nakapatay, no? Pero tama ka, mas malaki ang responsibilidad mo. Kaya nga, tatanggalin talaga sa servisyo. All these benefits will be forfeited. Even if, as the court said, it's not an official function. Pero kulang sila ng care, kulang sila ng precaution, hindi sumunod yung rules of engagement ng kapulisan mismo. Kaya tanggal sa so yun yung kanyang additional penalty. There's nothing to do with the criminal liability. Pero tanggal sa trabaho, forfeited lahat ng kanyang mga
benepisyo, retirement, lahat. Oo.
May admin liability, kumbaga.
Tsaka usually pati hanggang retirement yan, Attorney.
Yes. But in the private sector, kung private citizen ka, hindi naman automatic if you're convicted with homicide, i-forfeit ko na lahat yung mga benefits din sa private employment po.
Attorney, kayo po, from your point of view, somebody who is part of the legal system, the justice system, what do we learn from this case? Looking at it from a larger perspective, whether from law enforcement or from how law enforcers behave and how the public should also look at how they should be behaving.
But let me start with the positive. So kung tignan natin ito, medyo mabilis-bilis ang desisyon ng
Opo, mabilis.
So, sana all. Kasi nga, karamihan ng mga nasa korte, masyadong matagal. So, pwede naman palang mapabilis. Pangalawa, for the law enforcement, because it will teach them a lesson na hindi sila maging trigger happy. Nasanay na kasi sila din sa kultura ng impunity at dahil pulis ka may baril ka na lang ng baril. So I hope it will put them to notice report if pulis ka, pwede mo lang gamitin yung baril mo para barilin yung suspect. So, and then of course, thirdly, many of our people just faith in our justice system. Pero kung pupursigihin, may nagtatastigo, magkakaroon ho naman tayo ng resulta. Sometimes, that's totally to our liking, but, both sides are heard and justice is heard. Hala all na lang.
Attorney, to one point you made, yung being trigger happy, I read through the police protocol and the police procedures, what is allowed, what is not allowed when it comes to discharging your weapons. Tell me if I'm getting this right. But legally, hindi ka pwede magpaputok basta-basta kung ikaw ay police o law enforcer, not unless certain conditions are met. I mean, kasi sa pelikula kasi, sir, di ba, sa pelikula, pag tumatakbong suspect, babarilin kahit tumatakbo. Mukha namang hindi ganun dapat, di ba? I mean, I don't think that's what the law allows.
So, tama, huwag tayong maniwala sa pelikula. Kasi nga, ang SOP, dapat, kung suspect yan, at tumatakbo, pag-disparo ko muna, yung warning shot. Pangalawa, babarilin mo man siya sa paalang para mahuli mo. Hindi para barilin, para patayin. Kasi delikado yan, lalo na kung nasa likod, patalikod ang tama ng bala mo, at ito nga, mahulog na yan na murder. Ito nga, question yung patalikod. So, mga ganun ang dapat learning dyan na pangatlo, it's very important, when you, the point of arrest, you only use the necessary force to repel an attack or to enforce the arrest. Hindi naman mo yung license na baril ka lang ng baril. Ang gamitin mo po, bakal din lang As a matter of fact, if there's no reasonable use for a gun, you're not supposed to go your gun. Unarmed lang ito, mga bata eh. Pag tumakbo, kabulin mo. Huwag mong barilin.
Attorney, ito po, I found the police operational procedure, section 2.5, use of firearms when justified. The use of firearm is justified if the offender poses an imminent danger of causing death or injury to the officer or to other persons. So yun ang clincher eh. The use of firearm is only justified if there is imminent danger.
Yeah, to protect your life, to protect your safety. So it cannot be an imagined danger act na dahil suspect, dahil criminal, dangerous, so hindi ganun. Dapat there should be overt act. And making you believe that your life at risk for them is really an impending attack or harm on your person.
At attorney, ito po pala, sorry, second paragraph. The police shall not use warning shots during operation except when officers outnumbered or overpowered. Not in this case.
Kasi ang dami nila eh. Pwede nilang paligid.
Opo.
I'm sure may mga backup pa ngayon. And if ever you are allowed to use your firearm under your guidelines, use it to disable the person, to prevent the escape of the suspect, not to kill the suspect.
Okay. Obviously, attorney, there's been a lot of violations of, well, primarily here, no, pinapakita ni Ed, no, yung rules of engagement ng PNP. In the end, you still feel that it was homicide?
Well, that's the judge's decision. Kasi siya yung nag-examine ng mga witnesses. It's easy for us to comment and cast our doubts based on what is usually the case. But we have to remind everybody that it also depends on what was testified to and proven. The other thing that we always explain is, when it comes to criminal cases kasi, in presumption of innocence, plus the degree of proof to convict, for example, to a higher offense of murder, must be proof beyond reasonable doubt. So baka nagkulang lang. Maaring murder na, pero nagkulang lang ng ebidensya o may mga elements na hindi na-prove in addition to the killing, kaya homicide lang ang kanyang hatol.
Okay.
Okay. Attorney Domingo Igon Cayosa, former president of the IBB. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us this afternoon and thank you for that explanation that's very clear for us non-lawyers.
Okay. Thank you, attorney, for your time.
Good afternoon po sa lahat.
Thank you,
So
sir.
let's just recap briefly. Attorney Cayosa seems to agree.
Oh, yeah.
It is homicide.
It is homicide.
Because what's lacking in this case is a deliberate plan to
Premeditation.
kill.
Ito yung
Premeditation.
It's under Article 248 of the revised penal code, the definition of murder.
It is murder if any person who not failing within the provisions of
This
Article 246 shall kill another, shall be guilty of murder, and shall be punished by reclusion
Ito yung
temporal.
elements. Treachery, in consideration of reward or prize, inundation, blah, blah, blah. Ito yung clincher.
Anyway,
Number
so,
5, with evident premeditation.
In short, Bob, we know that it was a police operation gone wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? They were chasing a shooting suspect in another barangay. They chanced upon Jamboy and a friend, apparently, on a boat on their way to fish. The police apparently thought they were the suspects. Something,
Tumalon sa tubig.
Maybe in all the confusion, shots were fired. Okay, apparently, how many shots hit Jamboy? One in the head?
One lang ata eh.
Okay, but we're looking at a news story here that said that his death certificate says that he died of a gunshot wound to the head as well as from drowning.
Drowning, oh. Kasi ilang oras hindi pinarecover yung bata.
So it really goes back to how familiar or how disciplined are our law enforcers in following rules of engagement.
Mind you, lumaki na ang budget, lumaki na ang sweldo, gumanda ang gamit.
Gumanda gamit.
So
Yung police
dapat humabol lahat. I mean, dapat
yun na lang.
the man has to
follow.
follow.
To level up.
To level up, oo. Kasi nag-level up na lahat eh. I mean,
Sweldo.
tanda mo dati-
Sweldo. Sweldo.
Tanda mo dati, nag-cover tayo ng police. Grabe.
Oo, kanya-kanya bili ng
Oo.
kanya-kanya pong patahe
Yung iba
ng
nakapantik.
uniforme.
Tsaka yung iba nakapaltik.
Oo,
Mga
at saka
illegal.
pati baril, kanya-kanya.
Oo.
Kanya-kanya. Oh, ngayon, may budget na po.
Tapos yung bala mo bilang.
Right. Kaya magdadalawang isip ka.
Parang-
Siguro, bago mag-discharge ng iyong
Magkano
firearm.
isang bala, di ba? So there are a lot of things that have to catch up eh. So yun, evident premeditation ang clincher doon. Unfortunately, doon babagsak yung
Okay.
yung kaso. So there. Otherwise, it's
Very,
pretty,
very tragic death. Okay, very disturbing circumstances since this involves law enforcers and the conduct of law enforcers. The judge has decided that one of them will serve 4 years.
4 years.
For homicide. The rest are being...
The other four guilty of illegal discharge of weapons, 4 months.
4 months. Okay.
They've served time already under detention so laya na sila.
Which probably makes sense, Bok. Dahil if you look at the death certificate, he died of one gunshot wound.
Yeah.
So it was that gunshot maybe coming from the policeman who is being now convicted for
Although
for
the
homicide.
question is, did they fire at the victim and miss, or did they fire warning shots?
Well, you can't be convicted for homicide for missing. Yun lang ba? Okay, anyway.
We just need to pause for a breather. The Storycon will be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. We're back with stories that are the headlines and the stories behind the headlines. This is the Storycon, the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez with Mr. Ed Lingao.
Hello, good afternoon. Let's get more details on the President's visit to Australia. Makakausap po natin si News 5 correspondent Justin Punsalang. Justin, andyan ka ba?
Yes, Bok.
Ikaw ba'y nasa Australia o nandito sa Manila?
How I wish, Bok, na nasa Australia nga tayo ngayon. Unfortunately, dito lang tayo sa Maynila at nag-cover lang tayo nung send-off ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos.
So,
kanina.
Justin, hindi ka kasama sa balikang biyahe.
Hindi nga, sayang nga, overnight lang. Masaya sanang sabihin na nag-overnight lang ako sa Australia.
Hindi masaya yun.
Parang ginawa mo Cubao.
Ang haba ng biyahe dyan.
Teka, how many hours, Bob?
10 hours ata
10
yun,
hours,
if I remember
10 hours
right,
down, flying down under. So, Justine, ano yung mga eksena sa departure ng presidente?
Well, kanina nagbigay ng departure speech si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos kung saan sinabi niya yung magiging agenda niya sa kanyang pagpunta sa Australia. At trivia lang sa ating mga tagapanood, si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ang kauna-unahang Filipino president na magsasalita sa harap ng Australian Parliament. Ka-level niya na ngayon yung iba pang mga world leaders tulad nila George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Xi Jinping, pati Shinzo Abe at Joko Widodo. Kasi limitado lamang yung mga napagbibigyan para magsalita sa harapan ng Australian Parliament. At ang partikular na pag-uusapan, itatalakayin doon ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ay kung paano pa mapapalawig o mapapalakas yung strategic partnership ng ating dalawang mga bansa. Pag-uusapan din ay yung tungkol sa kooperasyon ng Pilipinas at Australia patungkol sa defense, security at peace sa rehiyon bilang ang Pilipinas at Australia ay parehong napapalibutan ng tubig maritime countries kung tawagin. At dahil nabanggit na rin yun na kanyang tungkol sa pagbabantay sa seguridad at kapayapaan sa rehiyon, nung nagkaroon ng panayam pagkatapos ng kanyang speech, ay natanong si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos tungkol dun sa recent o sa huling insidente ng panghaharas ng China sa Bajo de Masinloc noong February 22. At nangako yung Pangulo na hindi titigil ang ating gobyerno sa pagpapatrolya sa West Philippine Sea at pagprotekta sa mga mangingisdang naroon. At sinabi pa ng Pangulo na bagaman nakakabahala nga itong bagong aksyon ng China sa ating teritoryo, ay patuloy na maninindigan ng Pilipinas sa ating teritoryo at poprotektahan nga yung mga mangingisda. Ito kasi nangyari sa Bajo de Masinloc bukod sa dati kasi Chinese Coast Guard ang umiikot, ngayon Chinese fishing vessel at meron din daw helicopter o aircraft na lumilipad dun sa area, kaya nakakabahala dahil bago na yung taktika ngayon ng China.
Justine, is there anything about trade, for example, in the departure speech of the president? Puro defense at security related matters at ang pinag-uusapan.
Yes, may nabanggit na bahagya si Pangulong Marcos tungkol sa negosyo, ganyan. Pero wala talagang nabanggit kung isa ba yun talaga sa primary na magiging purpose ng kanyang pagbisita doon na makakuha ng investors. Although sinabi niya na may mga nilalakad na agreement na patungkol din sa economic partnership ng ating dalawang mga bansa. 3 agreements yun na inaasama pipirmahan sa kanyang pagpunta doon at wala pang ibinibigay na detalye kung ano-ano specifically itong mga agreements na ito.
May detalye ba doon sa yung napag-usapang posibilidad na security arrangements between the Philippines and Australia?
They're asking for VFA, I understand. Their own VFA, Visiting Forces Agreement, para pwedeng
pwede mag-station dito.
Mag-station dito, magkaroon ng war exercises dito ang Australian military.
Walang specific na binanggit doon kanina. Ang sinabi lang, kasama sa tatalakay. Pero hopefully pagbalik ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos bukas, ay mag-update siya sa atin kung ano-ano yung mga napag-usapan at maybe may specific na mabanggit tungkol dyan sa VFA nilalakad niya.
Bok, just to clarify, may tayong VFA with Australia pala since 2007. I remember now eh.
With Australia?
With Australia,
Okay.
What we've been trying to work out is a VFA with Japan. But we already have a VFA with Australia and of course with the US. I was asking about yung possible security arrangements with Australia kasi di ba there was talk before of the Quad, yung Australia, India, Japan, and the US as a security and diplomatic partnership to protect the region. Pero hindi masyadong pag-uusapan kung anong papel ng Pilipinas eh. Kasi wala tayong masyadong kagamitan eh. Any discussion or any talk at all of possible training or sales of weaponry or technology between the two, Justine?
Wala talagang binanggit tungkol dyan. Very generic, very general yung sinabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na basta pag-uusapan yung tungkol sa seguridad sa rehiyon.
So malamang siguro at this particular point, puro cross-training lang yan eh. Diba? May visit. I've seen in the past may mga Australian special forces who are here training with the Philippine soldiers in, for example, shooting and jungle movement. Mapapansin mo kasi iba yung camouflage nila eh. So they have been visiting because we have a VFA with them.
Already? Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're waiting for is a VFA with Japan.
With Japan, I think. Tapos earlier, it was last year, Australia announced it was striking a deal with the United States for a submarine, a purchase of several submarines by Australia. Of course, labas tayo doon kasi ibang budget yun eh. Ibang level ng budget yun.
They're eyeing, in fact, nuclear submarines.
Oo. Although, tinimbrihan tayo ng Australia na, hey, we're buying submarines from the US. So, just so you know. Tinimbrihan tayo eh. I remember that story eh.
And what
Hindi ko lang ako nangiinggit eh. Okay. Sige. Justine. Justine, para lang para malinaw kasi ang balita nga namin balikan lang tong biyaheng to. Punta siya diyan, babalik dito. Tapos babalik na naman diyan. Can you give us an idea if you know?
Ilang balikan to, Justine? Can you tell us
Bakit?
Yes. Balik, kanina umaga, umalis si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos at bukas ay uuwi na siya sa Pilipinas.
Sakit sa katawan niya.
Dahil lang sinabi ng DFA, meron daw siyang mga issues dito sa Pilipinas na kailangang asikasuhin. And then sa March 4, muling aalis ang Pangulo. Hanggang March 6 naman siyang nandoon. So yung pagpunta
Australia
niya
pa rin.
araw sa Australia.
Justine, yung March 4 is Australia pa rin.
Monday hanggang Wednesday.
Yes, March 4. Para magkaiba nga city. Ngayon kasi sa Canberra siya nagpunta. Sa March 4, pupunta naman siya sa Melbourne. At kasama ang kanyang agenda doon ay makikipag-meet siya o makikipagkita siya sa Filipino community sa Melbourne.
Okay, magkalayo yung Canberra at saka Melbourne, Bok, malaking bansa yung Australia, and so they're kind of poles apart, no? I would think.
May East and West ata, di ba?
Yeah.
Although they're both South.
Okay, so the president will be spending the weekend here in the Philippines, in Manila, right?
Uuwi siya. At may mga Philippine issues na kailangan daw siyang tugunan sa kanyang pag-uwi.
He mentioned this, Philippine issues. Did he mention what issues in particular, Justine?
Actually, DFA ang nagsabi nito sa briefing kahapon. Hindi lang niya i-specify kung ano sinubukan nating tanongin, pero sabi niya parang hindi daw siya ang nararapat na tanongin kundi ang Office of the President.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, maraming salamat, Justine Punsalang of News 5. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. A lot of Filipinos don't seem to realize just how huge
Australia is.
It's an entire continent. It's not just a country, it's a continent. You fly from one end to the other, like for example from Sydney to Darwin, just 6 hours ata yun, haba.
Right.
And you're
It's
crossing a vast expanse of desert.
Yes. And I'm looking at the map right now, no? It's mostly coastal parts lang talaga ang inhabited.
Ang gitna niya is Alice Springs.
90% of it is probably like nothing. There's nothing there.
Ang pinakagitna
The
niya,
outback.
inhabited area is Alice Springs, somewhere in the middle of the continent.
So the president will be visiting Canberra, which is Okay, and then Melbourne, which is on the southern part of the island, of the continent.
Tapos ibang-ibang kultura nila dun sa up north, dun sa down south. Sa Darwin, kita mo mga tao sa Darwin, iba yung dating nila. They're walking around the mall barefoot, mga ganon.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay, sige. Let's move on. Ibang story naman. Let's now bring in Marian Enriquez of News 5, who is reporting from the House of Representatives. Marian, kamusta tayo sa ating Day 3 ng Chacha Discussions?
Ay, kamusta kayo dyan? Patrick?
Oh,
Actually, gumugulong nga yung of the whole hearing ngayong araw at nakasentro sila dito sa public utilities. Pero bago natin puntahan yon, kanina nagkaroon ng press conference nga yung House leadership at humarap din yung si Deputy Majority Leader na Sally Gonzales. Siya rin na makikita natin na very busy, no? Na siya rin tumatanong for leader dito kapag session o kapag may hearing. At kanina sinabi nga niya na actually yung panawagan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na sana raw maisabay nga yung plebiscito nito nga tinutulak na harder change kasabay noong 2025 midterm elections. Sinabi na practical nga rin and economical, no, mas tipid talaga kung titignan natin dahil simple yes or no lang yan, na maisasabay nga sana natin doon. Pero ito, may sinabi siya na kung sakali na maipasa na nga nila, and in-announce sila yesterday, no, yung resolution of both houses, number 7 dito sa Kamara, before mag-Holy Week break ang Kongreso, at kung sakali lang na maipasa naman ng Senado rin yung kaparehong resolution naman of both houses, number 6 sa kanila sa Senate, before Lenten break, maaari pa nang mas mapaaga yung plebiscito kumpara doon sa target ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Kasi sinight niya na under the Constitution, ang COMELEC mandated na not earlier than 60 days or later than 90 days dapat maisagawa yung plebiscito. So yun yung isa doon sa mga naging punto niya kanina doon sa press conference.
I'm not sure if that's in Constitution. Baka that's in the People's Initiative Law, yung RA 6735. But anyway, sige, that's a good point. So they're looking at the possibility if they're able to pass this measure before Holy Week, baka sometime this year siguro. Kasi kung 3 to 6 months, di ba? 3 to 6 months dapat magka-plebiscito na. Pasok yan doon sa
May elections.
even before. Even before. Kasi 6 months coming from March yung Holy Week So April. So baka November.
Maan, is this the position of the House leadership na hindi kailangan isabay sa May elections? Yung plebiscite?
Marami na tayo nakausap ng mga House leaders, no, from Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez, the previous days, and even the Assistant Majority Leader at yung yesterday, sila sabi nila na mas mabuti sana kung wag lang isabay doon sa 2025 elections kasi nga mapupolitika. Ito yung kapi ng economic chacha. So yung pinaglalaban nila.
Okay, pero at the same time, I think magastos kung magkahiwalay pa yung plebiscito sa election, di ba? I think it's more economical and practical if
Kasi you're
kasama na sa balota yun, di ba? Yes or no?
Information campaign,
Right.
then you're talking about
Deploying COMELEC. The COMELEC
and
machines, the
it's
teachers.
basically all the registered voters.
Yes. So,
Tama. Pero matatandaan nyo rin, Patrick and Ed, naalala ninyo yung naging story natin ng mga nakaraang buwan na bringing up ni Congressman Ed Selagman yung laki ng pondo na binuhos dito sa COMELEC ng Bicameral Conference Committee, maalala ninyo? From 2 billion para dito sa conduct and supervision of plebiscites, naging 14 billion pesos. So parang talagang pinondohan nga.
may pera naman. Yan ang sinasabi ng mga congressman dyan. May pera naman for a separate plebiscite.
Tama.
Buti pang Chacha, hindi unprogram funds.
Planado.
Nasa budget
Yan ang
Hindi
punto
siya unprogram
Yan ang
funds.
punto ni Congressman Lagman. Talagang well-funded. Yun ang quote na, well-funded.
Okay, Marian, teka, ano muna, baliw dun sa may sasabi ka kanina na ang punto ng usapan kanina was about yung public services aspect ng, that's one of the 3 economic provisions that they want to tinker with. Paano usapan dyan? How's it going? And what's the target?
Yes. Actually, kaumpisa pa lang nung
talakayan bago nga suspend ulit para mag-give way doon sa regular session. Kasi di ba every 4 p.m. mag-session muna na sila tapos babalik ulit mamaya. So kanina nga na-tackle yan ditong public utilities and una, tinanong ni Congressman Lacman, ano ba yung public utilities? And he also cited nga yung mismong definition pa nga ng Korte Suprema na yung public utility as a business or service engaged in regularly supplying the public with some commodities necessary for the maintenance of life and occupation of residents. And even si dating bayan mo na Representative Nery Colmenares na inimbitahan bilang isang resource person, pinunto niya yung kahalagahan nga nitong mga communication, kuryente, tubig, transportation sa bawat buhay ng mga tao. Tinawag niya nga ito nga lifeblood. Kumbaga, ng mga Pilipino na hindi natin pwedeng ibigay or i-open sa mga tao. Yung lifeblood daw to ng nation. And kapag pinuksan, kung pinag-advertise mo na, ibibigay mo pa sa dayuhan, delikado raw yun.
Okay.
Handa raw ba tayo na buksan nga ito? Ang quote niya, hindi ba tayo natatakot pag hawak ng isang dayuhang bansa ang ating kuryente, tubig, pati transportasyon? May malaking problema po tayo dito.
Okay. Marian, ano yung nakalagay dun sa RBH o Resolution of Both Houses number 7 ng Kongreso? As far as public utilities is concerned, is it a complete liberalization? Ibig sabihin, talagang tanggal lahat ng restrictions sa public utilities at until or unless Congress passes a law setting limits. Ano nakalagay doon?
Yes, Bok. Ito, according dito sa RBH
Number 7.
Resolution of Both Houses number 7, unless otherwise provided by law.
Yun. Ayun. So,
Yun pa rin.
complete removal of all restrictions on public utilities, tama ba? Unless set by another law?
Unless. Yes. So, hindi pa rin tinatakda kung ilan nga yung proportion kung may 60-40, walang pang ganon.
Kasi yan nata yung punto kapo ni Congressman Gonzales sa interview natin na they might just remove all the restrictions and leave it to Congress later on to decide on the percentages. So, kasi it can be set man by law But
we haven't heard from the Senate on that matter. So baka iba naman yun.
kaya,
Diba?
baka mamaya, labo-labo.
But this is the problem, Bok, na hindi talaga malinaw pa rin hanggang ngayon yung magiging proseso ng Constituent Assembly.
At yung magiging proseso ng pag-reconcile.
But they're just parang making it as they go along. Parang ganun po nangyayari dito.
Parang uwido ba? Nag-uwido lang. So, Marian, teka, lahat ba ng lahat ng aspeto ng tatlong provisions ganun, removal of all restrictions for all three unless provided by law by Congress later on?
Tama. At yung tatlong provision na yun, public utilities, education, and advertising industries, unless otherwise provided by law.
So complete removal ng restrictions.
Tama.
So removal of restrictions. So given that, kung ganun lang, Bok, it should be fast.
Yeah.
It should be fast. There should just be a decision whether to remove or not. And then leave it to Congress again to craft the necessary Republic Act to
set
define
restriction.
the details of like most provisions of the Constitution, they need enabling laws, right,
Yeah.
Bok?
Yeah. You just have a framework in the Constitution and then the details, the numbers, via separate law.
Right.
Which also makes sense. Yeah. You don't want naman na, kasi ang hirap naman gumalaw ng Constitution basta-basta
Maan, nandiyan ka pa ba? May iba pa bang balita galing dyan sa batasang pambansa other than just chacha? Or chacha talaga ang what preoccupies most congressmen these days?
Yes, Chacha, actually, yung mainit ngayon. Pero, kanina alam ko may kasabay na pagdinig ang Committee on Labor, I think, tungkol dito sa wage increase.
Yun, okay.
Na paano kala. Maganda, makausap nyo rin yung ating co-reporter na si ZC Cosico. Siya ang nag-cover noon.
Okay. So tinatalakay nila yung pinasang bill ata ng Senado for 100 peso
100.
across the board.
Pero mas malaking mas malaking kinoconsider ng Congress. 300 ba? Tama?
300.
Tama. hanggang
300?
350.
Oo,
Okay.
mas galante yung mga congressmen kasi
And this
constituents,
bill is coming from, was filed by the majority or the minority? Do we know, Maan? Kanino galing tong panukala na to?
At may iba-iba. I think meron din ang bayan ay ang bakabayan. Gusto pa nga nila 700 bucks. Pero,
Siyempre, mas malaki, no?
Alamin natin kung... Pero kanina meron ding comment si Kong Neptali Gonzalez tungkol dito,
Yes.
Inano pa nga niya, tinipe pa nga niya si Endega Rutay na careful. Kasi daw, mahirap ang usapin na ito na magpapaasa tayo kumbaga ng mga mga empleyado for an increase, pero matatamaan naman yung mga negosyante. So, kailangan talagang balance mabuti.
Okay. Right.
it's been a while since there was a legislated wage increase.
Yes, but
Kasi
the policy of the government is really
Yeah.
regional wage
for
boards.
2.5 decades, the government has eschewed, has refrained from legislative wage increases kasi very political yan eh.
Very political at saka ang policy nga, Bok, is regional wage boards. Ang magde-decide po ng mga wage increases.
Tandaan mo yung mga panahon dati na kada diskusyon ng
Rally.
wage increase o
May rally.
o kaya oil price increase, may welcome bayan.
May welcome bayan. Ganyan po yan. And that kind of politicized when the wage increases are left to Congress, it kind of politicizes the issue. Okay. Maan Enriquez, News 5 reporter dyan po sa Batas
Thank you,
sa
Maan.
Pambansa sa House of Representatives. Maraming salamat sa oras mo, Maan.
Maraming salamat.
I also remember kasi there were some groups that are against yung legislative wage increase. I think among them yung Foundation for Economic Freedom, one of them. I'm not really sure which.
Well, we know the private sector is very much against it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kasi among other things, among the other arguments, maliban sa tatamaan yung small businesses, and most of the businesses are small businesses.
Yes. And there's below a certain number of employees, you're actually exempted.
Exempted.
So you're
Actually,
not really benefiting
yun nga
a lot of people.
Hindi naman covered ng wage increase, whether legislated or not, yung informal sector.
Yun, isa pa yun.
So tatamaan sila ng inflation pero hindi sila hindi sila makikinabang sa wage increase. So may ganun back and forth. Of course, there are groups that want it, there are groups that are hesitant about it because of
So
implications.
these are the balancing acts that we see or we find whenever we talk about economic policies, economic decisions, economic legislation. So you increase wages, you cause an increase in consumption, let's say, pero that will also has a result on prices.
You increase wages, may concurrent increase in manufacturing costs, resulting in inflation, and then you have government trying to temper inflation by increasing
Interest rates.
And so on down the line.
Nothing is for free. Anyway, at this point, let's bring in One News editor, Joey Francisco, who just came from our story conference with the producers of One News and One PH. Jovi,
good afternoon, Patrick and
long
Ed.
time no see. Nice to have you after so many days na, di ba?
Okay. Yesterday I was pitching a story sa inyo na pero
Yes.
incomplete pa kasi siya. Pero ngayon parang nabubuo na ng editors natin. It's about yung usual na paglalabas ng Senate at saka ng House of Representatives sa kanilang attendance check for at least this session. So, alam naman natin na meron silang nilabas kahapon
Perfect
na
attendance.
Mm.
Perfect attendance of how many senators?
12 senators
12
na
senators.
perfect attendance based doon sa list ng Senate kahapon. Pero sabi nga nila, ano ba yan? Balita ba yan? Dapat talaga pumasok sila. Dapat pumasok sila, dapat complete ang attendance nila. That's part of their job.
Jovi, if I recall correctly, medyo mababa yan. Kasi normally, it's on the highs of 20, 23, 24.
Ito 50% lang eh.
When in fact, actually, I don't know if they've changed the definition of attendance in the Senate, basta nagpaalam ka lang for on official business, kahit wala ka sa session,
Hindi ka
it's
absent.
counted as an attendance, right?
That's true, that's true. Pero ang base doon sa listahan, lumalabas na may iba na hindi nakapagpaalam ng maayos kahit na official yung gawain nila outside the session hall, ano. Which is really weird kasi parang dapat ginagawa ng may staff work dapat doon, ano.
May staff sila.
Nakapagpapaalam sila dahil nangyari na yun sa lower house na parang nagreklamo si Congressman Jules dati na parang, ba't ako ma-absent? Nandito naman ako sa sa office ko. Kasi nga dapat nagsasabi pa din.
Okay.
Sa office
Sila,
niya.
di ba?
So Jovi, that explains why medyo mababa yung 12 senators sa perfect attendance.
Yes,
Not to
yes,
say
yes.
na pag may session nandyan sila, doesn't mean that. Right?
It doesn't mean that. Kasi
Basta
pwede naman
nakapagpaalam.
you're listening or monitoring.
Or basta
parang
nakapagpaalam.
equipped ng bawat kwarto ay equipped nung monitoring for what's happening sa plenary or even the committee rooms.
Right. Okay.
Yun.
So,
So yun. Ang bago doon sa story from yesterday, sa ngayon, ang lumaka doon inilabasan nila kung sino yung top pinakamarami absent. I mean, kailangan din natin sabihin yun kung may
Ayan
perfect
na.
attendance.
Ayan na. Sige,
Ay,
sino?
meron din hindi. So bali sa records ng Senate Legislative Journal Service, si dating House Speaker na ngayon, Senator na ulit Cayetano, Alan Peter Cayetano, ang pinakamaraming na itala na absence or pagkawala sa session at 36
days.
out of the 54 regular plenary sessions ang kanyang na-miss.
So, Joey,
marami
can we
siya
get that number again? 36 out of 54?
Na regular plenary session.
That's more than half.
54 pa lang so far. Ang 54 pa lang yung regular plenary session. Itong session itong kabuuan itong session
36 absences?
36 absences.
So that's most of the time, more than half the time, wala siya. Ganun ba yan, Joey? Is
That's
that what
it.
it means?
At yung iba doon ay lumalabas na parang nandun lang din naman siya pero yan yun. On the days he was present, he came in late 16 times. Talagang nanonote pa yun ng mga reporters doon sa binigay na listahan ng legis doon sa Senate. Yan.
So kung ganun
Official
ang
trip yung kalamis.
kung ganun yung
Karamihan ng
nangyari.
reason ng absence niya ay official trip.
So kung ganun ang nangyari, Jovi, aapila ba si Senator Cayetano? Dahil kung nandun naman siya on certain days. Hindi
Yes,
natin alam.
pero marami pa rin siyang absences at nailagay yon as official trip naman.
Okay.
So parang counted pa rin na siya ay hindi absent pa rin siya sa session pero on official trip.
So in other news, Jovi, what else do we have?
Okay. Binibenta ko sa ito kanina eh. At mukhang gustong gamitin ng mga producers natin maski ng TV5 or ng News 5. Yung tungkol dun sa pag-voice ni Congressman Joey Salceda noong pa naman natin naririnig na pag-angal ng ibang kapitbahay natin na Southeast Asian nations about Taylor Swift.
Okay. So what about Taylor Swift?
And I think, there's, para sabi lang, bakit si Joey, si Congressman Joey nag-raise ng ganitong klaseng issue. Pero actually, may economics, I think, mas maintindihan ni, mas alam ni Patrick itong economic, implication na parang dun lang sa Singapore nakapag-perform si Taylor Swift at kung bakit ito'y nakuha exclusively ng Singapore. So umaangal doon si Congressman Joey Salceda and he wants our DFA to reach out doon sa counterparts sa Singapore to explain yung exclusivity at kung ba't hindi pwede ang mga ba't hindi pwede ang Bangkok or ang Thailand or tayo na ready rin tayo to host that concert.
Okay, so what is Congressman Joey Salceda looking at? A diplomatic protest or something?
An inquiry at best, I think.
Okay.
Kasi
But you know, there was a news.
revenue-wise na parang nawawalan tayo ng kita.
I know, but there was a news item about a week ago where it was revealed that the Singapore government actually gave a grant.
Yes,
I don't recall the exact number. Gave a grant to the organizers of the Taylor Swift concert para ma-corner nila. So, maybe they were able to negotiate. My understanding is Singapore was able to negotiate with Taylor Swift's production for them, dito na lang kayo sa Singapore, okay, we'll give you this much, Okay, you don't need to go elsewhere in the region. So this is it would seem that it's a business transaction, and that the Singaporeans were basically more savvy about this because may grant na binigay sa organizers, but we all know that this is going to be a windfall for Singapore's economy, because a lot of people will be flying there. People from Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, will be flying to Singapore, booking hotels, spending for food and whatever, just to see this concert. Good for their economy. That's what you call, economy. I guess, forward planning, Jovi. Na medyo hindi siguro nakita ng mga opisyal natin.
That's true. At pero linawin ko lang, ang hinihingi ni Congressman Joey Salceda by way of our Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA ay note verbal. Imagine, yun na talaga ang kanyang push for this. Okay, so we'll see kung ano reaksyon ng DFA dyan. Alam ko kinukuha na ng News 5 at ng ilan nating mga editors yung pwede maging reaksyon. Okay, dagdag ko lang, ito pala dapat ang katambal ng Cayetano issue, Patrick and Ed, before tayo matapos. Nag-assign na ang PhilPost ng bagong zip code para doon sa mga EMBO barangays na napunta sa Taguig. So yung 10 barangays in Taguig ay meron ng bagong zip codes at pwede nila itong gamitin. So 10 yan. So from 1640 hanggang 1649 isi-spread out doon sa 10 na EMBO barangays sa ngayon ay nasa Taguig na. So that's a follow-up doon sa storya na titingnan natin about the EMBO barangays na nilipat niya sa Taguig.
Jovi, do we know what the top story of the big story is later for tonight? Quick, briefly.
They are monitoring, sabi sa akin ng producer na si Eric, they're monitoring what's happening sa lower house dahil doon sa Committee of the Whole, at saka kung ano ang update kay Presidente doon sa Australia.
Okay. Hindi na kita tatanungin tungkol sa statement ng Cornerstone about Sam Milby and Catriona.
Alam niyo na,
hindi makarelate si Bok.
Hindi pa sila break, pero may problema.
May pinagdadaanan.
Yeah.
Ito ba yung nag-break daw dahil hindi pa ready isang magpakasal?
Engaged na Bok So hindi ko alam. Baka...
ang sabi ko nga, hindi ba false dichotomy yun? Just because you can't have one, you can't have the other.
Lumalogic.
May spectrum yan
Okay, mukhang ikaw nang papalit kay Doc Rica sa kanyang show, pero sabihin, hintayin na lang nila sa STL. Meron yata kami dyan, Patrick, na discussion.
Mas masarap ang usapan mamaya sa STL tungkol dito. Maraming salamat, One News Editor Jovi Francisco.
Okay, Joby, thank you. And those are the stories that are the headlines, the stories behind the headlines. I'm Lingao.
I'm Patrick Paez. Join the Story Conference again tomorrow at 4 p.m. This is One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.